back to Waiting in Laodicea. I'm your host, A.T. Martinez, and today we're going to do a little bit of recap and review. Number one, we're going to review some of what's happened politically over the last week, recap the potential problems, and then go back into some of what I've been saying before. First off, the Equality Act is dangerous. I did a whole episode on the Equality Act, and what this is the beginning of the war on Christians, or anybody else that holds a belief other than progressivism. If you looked at the news this week, you will have seen several interesting articles. You will see the state of Texas is looking at possibly seceding from the Union. A couple other states are talking about it also. Why? Because they see a clash coming. You'll see that in your state, there's a possibility that your state is one of the states that have passed that are looking at passing 42 separate laws to fix the election mess up. You know, that election mess up that half the country is saying didn't really happen. The 2020 election was crooked. It's admitted. They admitted it was crooked. They admitted they had a cabal of people that worked to fortify the election, to make sure it went a certain way. They did this by breaking the laws. So states started passing laws to counteract this, to fix this problem. Well, on the opposite side, you have the federal government who is now working on trying to pass a bill that fixes it so that everything that happened in the 2020 election becomes the norm. You have a continued usage of this critical race theory that is simply dividing the nation. And now you have President Biden talking about the potential of paying reparations and taking steps on his own, again without Congress. Now, I find it ironic that a man who accused his opponent of trying to be a dictator, which is what the Democrats accused Trump of constantly, has already passed more executive orders at this point in his presidency than any other president in history. He's passed more than quite a few of them together, including all the way back to Ronald Reagan. If you took Reagan, Bush 1, Clinton, Bush 2, Obama, and Trump, and added them all together, none of them come close to come close to being a dictator the way that Biden has. And he ain't done. Biden's immigration policy, or lack of, no, he has a policy, let everybody in. Meanwhile, he's got states in lockdown. This conflict and all of these little areas are signs of conflict, and they are signs of potentially even worse conflict. What we're seeing, and what I'm seeing, is the potential for numerous types of wars. Hopefully, Lord willing, they wouldn't all happen at once. If they didn't, any one of them is not a good thing. Let me review the different potential problems that we see, the different types of conflicts that could come out. First off, you have the federal government versus numerous states. You would have basically a civil war. Under this scenario, where the states weren't trying to leave, these states would be then fighting to stop the power of the federal government. This is the lightest of the potential circumstances. Then you have a number of states that are looking at saying, that's it, it's over, we're out of here. Like any modern secular couple, we're not going the same way, so let's just go our own separate ways and just a peaceful divorce. potential situations out there, this could be the one way of getting the problem solved without a civil war. If you believe the federal government would let them go. I don't think the federal government would let them go. I cannot see Joe Biden's ego and Nancy Pelosi's ego allowing themselves to give up what they see as potential power. Which would mean you would have the federal government attacking states to make them stay, which is absurd. You would have a civil war. You have a potential race war that is being fermented. You have a potential ideological war. And as you progress up this scale, from a few states fighting the federal government to the ideological war, what you end up is the level of brutality and bloodiness gets worse. Now let me break this down for you so you can understand what I'm saying. If a few states oppose the federal government and the federal government fights it out with them, yeah, there's going to be blood. The outcome of which is not a guarantee, because depending on those states, that's a large part of your military. Other states will probably get involved, so you get a minor civil war. It could very quick. It would be the least dangerous. It would then escalate to the second category, as I said, which is some states leaving. Now, if the states leave, if Texas secedes, this would be immediately followed by several other states leaving. And then those states that are sitting back going, no, I don't want to live at the mercy of the federal government, and the Democrats would join the bandwagon, and you'd have probably as many as 29 states saying, we're out of here. That is the majority of the states. If it got into a civil war, this would be bloody. But at least under this situation, you'd have a front line. You'd have a line showing you what, one side versus the other. The last two categories of war, though, there is no front line. In a race war, well, you would have groups shooting at each other based on the color of the skin. This could get very bloody very fast. But what makes it worse is there's no geographical front line. You'd have cities versus counties, or the country. And within the city, a lot of the people, one side would do better. Outside the city, the other side would come to power. It would not be good, because the nation can't operate like that. You can't have that as a status quo. Cities don't grow food. So, this one would be bad. Not as bad as the last one. An ideological war between the Republicans and the Democrats. Who's who? I want you, if you don't know your neighborhood, do you know your neighbors? A lot of people don't even know their neighbors. I don't know all of my neighbors. I know a few of the people that live around me, and that's about it. So the person who lives on the street behind me, I don't know what their political views are. And I'll be honest, I don't know my neighbor's views either. Right there shows you this could get very bloody, because you don't know who the enemy is. Other things that have come up for potential problems. The power grid failure in the state of Texas could very well be a foreshadowing of a problem for the whole nation. Texas is unique in that it has its own power grid. But, contrary to what AOC is saying, the power grid did not fail because it didn't have enough renewable energy in it. The power grid failed because of the renewable energy. Wind turbines froze. You have to have a diverse power grid. And if you don't have a diverse enough power grid, you get problems. And there are other reasons why it failed besides just simply what sources of their power. Perfect storm, perfect situation. Well, this is, in a sense, it's a way of, if you look at it, the main power grid of the United States isn't in any better shape. It's actually in worse shape. As the Biden administration continues flexing its power and implementing its environmental and energy policies, that problem is going to get worse. It's going to become a shakier energy supply. So, a shaky energy supply on old, outdated infrastructure. You could look at a nationwide problem where you could see 47 of the states suddenly lose power. Everything craps out. This would be very bad. And if that problem persisted, you're looking at weeks, maybe months with no power. This would lead to anarchy. So you see right now, just real quickly, I've detailed for you multiple ways for things to go bad in the United States. Now, if you're sitting back going, but I don't live in the United States. Yeah, you don't. But that doesn't mean you're not going to feel it. If the U.S. goes down, the whole world is going to feel this. The effects would be global. If you don't believe me, watch what happens every time the United States economy starts going down. It's felt worldwide. We are the engine that moves the world. I'm not saying that as a sense of pride. I'm saying that as a sense of reality. If you are not prepared for what's coming up, the effects of the United States are going to hurt you. And you need to realize this. And accept the fact that your government may or may not have plans. And if they have plans, you may not like them. I mean, we already seen how the governments of the world reacted to the pandemic. And in most cases, people didn't like it because our governments got very, very, very authoritarian. Are you prepared for this? If your answer is no, and I think a lot of people have the same answer, are you sitting back hoping that all of this is just it'll blow over? Well, I'm here to tell you it's not going to blow over. It's not going to get better. In the United States, a recent poll showed that over half the population firmly believes that we're heading towards a civil war. And on top of that, fully 50% are actually preparing for it. You need to start preparing yourself also, because you can blithely go along and sit back and say it's not going to happen until the world starts caving in, or you can start getting prepared. Now, if you're sitting back going, well, God will save us, I know a lot of people who believe that nothing bad's going to happen because God will take care of everything. But you got to remember, this is part of his plan. It's time for you to stand up and support yourself. It's time for you to realize God's plan is God's plan. And sometimes that plan includes testing his people. A very big test is coming. But unlike a pop quiz, you're being warned in advance. Don't be like the person on the house who kept saying God will save me, and ignore the offer of the boat, the jet ski, and the helicopter. God's sending you warnings. He's telling you it's time to get ready. It's up to you to decide what you're going to do. My answer is prepare. I believe that is what the Bible tells me to do, and that's what I believe is my calling to tell you to do. God wants you to prepare. How do we prepare? You start looking at where you live first. Are you in a major city? Are you in any big city? If the answer is yes, it's time to start looking at places outside of that. Do you have to move there right now? No. But you need to start preparing. You need to start thinking about, where am I going to go? When things start really getting bad, where can I go? Second thing, how are you going to get there? If and when everything goes belly up, are you going to be able to drive there? Maybe, maybe not. You need to think about it. How far are you trying to drive? Is your car in shape to go? Is your car big enough to move everything you need to move? If you're thinking of packing everything you own into a U-Haul and going, you're not being realistic. Number one, a lot of what you own isn't going to help you unless you plan to burn it. You need to start realistically looking at what you need to survive. Now, I've watched several reviews over the last couple weeks of those survival foods, and then I looked at the prices on some of them. The ones that were actually good, where the people enjoyed eating them, are running $15 to $20 a packet. I'm sorry, that's a little bit out of my price range. Because think about it, the minimum we have to prepare for is 7 years. 7 times 3 is 21. 21 times 365. Let me see if my assistant will pull up that number for me. Why? Because I sure ain't going to do that math. Sorry, modern technology can be slow sometimes. Okay, I'm back. That's 7665?
Yeah.
Okay, let's just call it 7,700 meals. Where are you going to get it? And if each of those meals costs you $15, that's a lot of money. That's per person. Now, most of you are not sitting at home all alone. Well, you might be watching this alone, but if you are not alone, turn around and add the number of people that live there with you, and multiply that by that 7,700. That's how many meals you're going to need. And if you're spending $15 per meal, are you Bill Gates? I'm not. So you need to look at other sources of food. Well, what other sources of food are there? There are types of food that have long shelf lives. Some of them last almost indefinitely. These long shelf life foods, beans, rice, things like this, can be stockpiled in advance, stored up, and once you have that land, that place that you're going, you can actually store them there. You just store them in airtight containers. The thing is, you need to start preparing. If you are not preparing, it's going to catch you, and then you are at the mercy of the world. Now, the Bible has told us repeatedly, the world does not like us. We are not of this world. We are the enemy to this world. If you are at the world's mercy, you are not going to like this. So what can you do? Prepare. Start thinking about it. Stockpiling food is not as hard as you think. First off, bags of beans. They come in a bag, usually a pound. You can get it any size from 1 pound up. When you go to the store to do your grocery shopping, pick up a bag of beans. Once you get enough beans you think you can fill up an airtight container with, fill that container. Put it up. Once you get enough of these, put it in a tote, seal the tote up. That's a lot of food. If you had 1 tote of beans, you have a lot of beans. Rice. As long as you seal it in an airtight container, rice is going to last. Oatmeal. If you have rice, oatmeal, and beans, you've got the basis of a diet. Is it a bland diet? Probably. Can you add to that? Of course you can. Should you add to that? It'd be better. So you need to start thinking about these things and put food away. Next thing, you need to start thinking about how are you going to get from point A to point B? Is your car going to make it? Now, if you're sitting there thinking you're going to make it out on a bicycle, unless that bicycle ride is, up the hill or just out and about, not a realistic option. Electric bike, better option, because then your bicycle can charge, especially if you get the ones with the charging packs. Get it where it has a solar battery mounted onto it, a trailer. Then you're getting into more realistic attitudes. The first and foremost thing, and if I can't stress anything any harder to you, is you need to start thinking about what if and start making plans. Now, I know I'm telling you to start putting and spending money, and in this day and age, a lot of us don't have money. Hey, I'm in the same boat you are. The difference is, I know I'm in this boat, and I need to start preparing for it. I did some checking. I'm using PGI. It's working so far, and I will continue to give you updates on that. The other thing is, as I said, buying a couple bags of beans extra is not so much. But you're going to want money. You're going to need money to do this. My answer to you is simple. Pray. God said He will provide. Let Him provide for you. Let Him show you ways to make money, how to use your money more effectively. A lot of you have more money than you realize. The problem is you just tend to spend it on things you probably shouldn't. I know some of you out there smoke. If you're buying cartons of cigarettes, you're spending $45 for every 10 packs, $50, $60 a pack, carton. There's cheaper ways. You can go online. There are several places out there, tobacco companies, that you can buy bulk tobacco. You can roll your own. Man, that sounds poor. No, that sounds frugal. Learn to stop wasting your money. Start using your money wisely. And start preparing. Look at your car. Start thinking about, can my car pull enough food? The answer is going to be no. But can it pull enough other foods that you're going to need? Yes. Buy a trailer. Build a trailer. If you know how to weld, build a trailer. All you got to do is weld some frames together, make it square, put a couple boxes up on it, put an axle under it, so it'll roll, and then wire it with tail lights and so on and so forth. You can do these things. You can find a used trailer fairly cheap. You need to decide it's time to start doing so. If you got a nice box trailer and just filled it with necessities, food, some clothes, tents, the gear that you're going to, survival gear, when the balloon goes up, you can hook that up and go. Now, if you're preparing long enough in advance, and if the Lord gives you enough time, you've bought yourself a piece of land. It's a couple hundred miles away from where you are. I'm saying that because most of us don't. Most of us live in or near big cities, or bigger cities, or big towns, however you want to put it. Thing is, you're not living out in the country. I say this because most people do. Well, find your land. Get yourself a piece of land and go to it as soon as you can. Start looking at it. Build a catch, a place to put your stuff in advance. Again, if you put your food in airtight containers, the animals are not going to get to it. Now, you start stocking up in advance. When the balloon goes up, you have a place to go. You have food. All you got to do is bring your whatever you've stored up since the last time you went up there. The next thing you need to start thinking about is, am I going to get food while I'm there? Again, unless you're Bill Gates, the answer should be yes, which means you're going to need to do a little bit of hunting or fishing and some gathering, possibly some farming. Plan in advance. Can you hunt? I don't know. Are you any good at it? If the answer is no, then we need to start practicing this. Things to think about. Bullets aren't cheap. Are they cheaper than other things? Yeah. If you spent $1.50 for a bullet and shot yourself a big old huge deer, that's a lot of meat. Figure about 700-800 pounds. That's a good amount of meat. Will it feed your family for 7 years? Not any chance. So you're going to need to be able to shoot or hunt a variety of animals and multiple times. Bullets. That would add up. Can you make bullets? Can I personally? Not yet. Do I plan to learn how? Yes. Because all you got to do is save the brass, reload it, get a new bullet tip on it. These things can be done. Other options: crossbows, bow and arrow. Going back to the more primitive weaponry, you have things that can be easily, you can make the rounds for. You can make a crossbow bolt. Is it going to be as good as the ones you bought? Probably not. But will it work? That's the answer that you need to be looking for, is, will it work? And if you can find something that's going to work, that's what you need to use. Get yourself thinking about survival and plan for it. Start buying for it. Start spending your money the right way. Now again, I'm going to stress to you, I am not telling you quit your job and go hide in the mountains. Number one, you probably don't have the stuff to do it anyway. Number two, because you need if you went and hid in the mountains right now, I don't know how long you'd have to prepare for. The tribulation hasn't started. So there's 7 years, plus however long it takes us to get there. There are only a few signs left, but there's still significant signs. And until they come, the tribulation isn't going to start. So, going up ahead of time, unless you have to, doesn't make sense. Okay, if you have a job that you work online and you can work from anywhere, then yes, my advice to you would be to start planning on moving as soon as you can afford it. Get yourself up there, build your home, set yourself up to where you are going to be comfortable. Remember, there's a big difference between surviving and living and thriving. You can survive with very little. Is it going to be a good life? No. Taking a little bit more effort, you get to the living you can live. Is it going to be a good life? Better than what survival is, but not quite to the area of thriving. Thriving requires you to make plans in advance and prepare for things, to get everything, all your steps covered before you are forced to use them. I'm coming to you now because God told me to. I'm hoping that is so that you have time to prepare. Looking around us today, if the balloon were to go up over any of these circumstances, by and large, I would say you have a couple of years to plan. A couple of years to prepare. But I don't see you having much longer than that. In the United States, if we make it to 2022, we're doing good. If we make it to 2024, I'm starting to get surprised. If we make it past that, I'm dumbfounded, because I don't see another presidential election that is just going to kick things off. Can I be wrong? Of course I can. I'm not a prophet. I'm just somebody with something that God has told him to keep in mind. I'm just somebody that God reminded, these are problems you need to know how to prepare for. And while you're at it, tell others. And the same thing I'm going to say to you. While you're at it, tell others. If you go up by yourself, one person surviving by itself can be done. If you are like me and can do okay without other people around, this won't be bad. But the odds are it isn't going to be just you by yourself. You're going to want some people. We are social creatures by nature. I mean, even Adam had Eve. If this is the case, then you need to start making sure those that are going to go with you are prepared. Or at least know your plans. Now, that is going to get you to a point where there's a potential problem right there. If you're preparing and they're not. If they're not, if they sit there going, this is stupid, it's a waste of my time and money, you have a choice to make. Do you prepare for them also? Or do you find others that agree with you so that you can prepare with them? I don't know your answer. I don't have your answer. You have to make that decision. Can you live with these people? Can you live without these people? I don't know. I do know that you have to make those choices, and you need to make them in advance. You need to prepare. if you don't prepare, it's going to bite you. Now, I already know that if the U.S. goes into any of the Civil War conflicts, you're looking at millions of people dead. You're going to be looking at probably the greatest single loss of life in the world since the genocides, the communist genocides, and World War II. You're looking at a lot of people dying. Why? Because that's the nature of people. And we have weapons today that can help you kill lots of people. The one thing humanity has gotten very good at is killing. I personally do not want me or my family in somebody's sights. So my plans are not to be in their sights. Do I know what all my family plans to do? No. Do they know what I plan to do? Some of them do. These are areas that I am working on and plan to talk with my family on, so that whenever the balloon does go up, we're ready. You need to do the same. And you need to start preparing. The answers are there. God will provide for you. All you have to do is ask and prepare. This has been your waiting in Laodicea's preparation message. I will give it to you again and again and again because it's important. If you don't prepare, the odds are you're not going to make it. If you had to get up right now and go out into the mountains to survive, for the vast majority of my audience, you're not going to live. You got to be prepared. If you like this show, hit the like button. Please subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, do all the usual things. If you haven't done it, please do it. It helps me prepare. If you wish to help this ministry, you can donate by going through this platform, or you can go to our website, which is www.waitinginlaodicea.weebly.com. There are several possible ways to donate on there. Please don't hesitate. We take any and all forms of help. If you own a business and you want me to talk about your merchandise, depending on what merchandise you're selling, let me know. I'll be glad to. Hey, awesome. You want to sponsor me? Depending on your product, I'll be glad to take the sponsorship. And if it's a good product, I will definitely make sure people know about it. Because if anything that can help us in the end is a good thing. If you have an extra $1 or $2 sitting around and you want to donate it, I take any amount of money. All the money that is received from this channel will go to supporting the ministry. Will be going towards helping purchase different items so that I can do reviews of them. Helping this ministry so that whenever the balloon does go up, this ministry doesn't stop. Because once Laodicea has helped you prepare for the end, we're going to walk you through the end with you. I'll be right out there in those woods with you, folks. And I'm going to work on trying to find a way to where I can still get in contact with you. May not be able to use platforms like YouTube and such, but I'll find a way. Why do I know this? Because God always finds a way. God is with me, and God is with you. This has been Waiting in Laodicea. I am A.T. Martinez. Thank you very, very much, and may God bless you throughout the rest of your week.